say in Endgame. I'm reading the chat right now, and I probably should be mentioning this more often. One thing that seems to be confusing some people is my title. Never thought I would have to clarify this, but I am a woman grandmaster. I actually got all of women titles, starting from WCM, which I really didn't like because of, well, use your imagination. So WCM, WFM, WIM, WGM, and then I got the IM, which is like higher than WGM because it's the men title, kind of. So I didn't feel the need to speak about this, but I saw a comment and I just wanted to help put their mind at ease. I am also a FIDE trainer, still the youngest. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I got it like 4 years ago. I also saw, I wish I was GM Dorsa, but you're missing a little W before that. But soon, hopefully, it will be Dr. Dorsa. But so I would like to also mention some of the other viewers who wrote in the chat. So I've actually never been to Kurdistan. I wish I was. I went to India a bunch of times, and my favorite thing to eat was, you guys have amazing Kit Kats. The Kit Kats in the US are just not like that. I just like, so if anybody coming from India, send me Kit Kats. From Gazvin. Of course, I've been to Gazvin. Gazvin is just very close to Tehran. Oh my God, you had this like flour cookies, flour Shirinese. Oh, I missed that. And like there was this one restaurant I absolutely loved, but it's been like so many years, probably not there anymore. They had like this amazing tahdigs. Oh my God. Okay, I need to stop drooling over here. I don't remember what I liked eating in Australia. Oh, thank you, George, for your donation. And actually, never mind, I've never been to Australia. Oh my God. Oh, I was supposed to go and I ended up not making it for the tournament. Visa problems. Mexico. Mexico is in my to visit list, and there was one Brazil. I was in Brazil in 2011. I absolutely loved it. I have one of my great friends is Brazilian, Karen, who also goes to SLU. She's amazing. It's like she's so nice. If I need like a dose of niceness, she's usually the person that I contact. All right, so I'm out of, oh, Russia. Okay, now all the food is coming back to me, and this is gonna be like a lesson on thinking, sitting here talking about end games of foods. So I'm gonna limit myself to just a few food choices that I gave up and drink some of this bitter coffee to help. Okay, so with that being said, hopefully you guys had a great food introduction. So let's go ahead and take a look at some endgames. So recently I've been doing some endgames that included some like tactical ideas, more like dynamic versions, and some like just like we've been doing a lot of pawn and king warfare because I've been teaching that class more recently on Twitch on Friday. So we're just basically looking at pawn end games. We've been doing that for months and I still haven't run out of material, so we're gonna keep doing it. However, thinking about a little bit more complex end games, I always think about rook end games, and they are a handful. So let's please start looking at this position. So full disclosure, I have no idea how I got these files. So I remember when I was in Iran, when I was still studying and doing chess in Iran back in like 2014-15, one of my friends gave me this like 26,000 endings and studies, and I tried my best to finish them. I think I only managed to do up until like 5,000-6,000, and I was, after that I was like, okay, the next 20, well, next lifetime, not for me. It was just way too much endgame, and I never actually finished, so full disclosure / guilty. So, white to move, how do you want to win? Yep, rook g1, I see one rook g1. I think rook g1 is interesting, but I think the thing to keep in mind is that even with rook g1, you have to actually know what you're doing. So can somebody tell me what they're trying to do? Like rook g1, king h7, then what? This should be winning for white, right? Ha, rook d1, awesome. Yeah, don't do rook d1, man. Yeah, we want to build a bridge, exactly. Enough said. I know you guys got this. We want to build a bridge. We want to build a snowman. Hold on, those are two different things. So rook g1, king h7. Now, does anybody want to tell me what to do here as white? Keep in mind, if king f7, just rook f2. And he's just going to keep checking you and keep going after the pawn and keep checking you, and we'll get back to this position. Ha! These are very interesting endgames, and they're very theoretical. So if you're actually sitting there looking at it for the first time over the board, it's highly likely you'll not find the right move. So it's better to know what you're doing beforehand than just sit there and be like, oh my god, what am I supposed to do? How am I gonna win this? So yes, you guys know this. Rook g4. I wanted to mention that another way to win this is actually rook a1. Rook a1 is also possible because rook a1, now if black plays something like king g7, you're gonna go to a8, you're gonna come to d8, and now you're gonna get the king out. And the thing is, even if he checks you, you're still gonna just follow, and you get the idea, right? And if he tries to get funny with me, I'm just gonna queen it. I'm not gonna really bother. So that's another way to win. So yeah, that's one way. Rook g4 is another way. Rook g4 I think is the easiest way. Then you just get the king out, and the whole thing is that you want to get this position and get your rook to e4 to the bridge that was mentioned earlier to stop the checks, right? All right, great. You guys notice? Whoa, that is not the button I wanted to push. Ha. Okay, probably this should work. Oh my god, it's gonna take forever. Remind me not to save again. What about this game? White to move. Not too complex, but I feel like these are some of the very basic things that if you don't know, you're gonna get in trouble. So, insane in the membrane. Ha, that was good. Yeah, queen b6 is the best one. Whoa, why isn't this? All right, queen b6 is the best one. Queen a5, queen b4, and king c2. Voila. All right, so you guys know this. Black to move. Are we gonna queen faster? And also which pawn to push. It is black to move, so we are going to queen faster. But he's also going to queen with check. So is that something we want to do? Or does anybody see anything better? Yep, it is black to move. Ah, good to know, George. I mean, good to know that you know where you should work on. So with pawn endgames, it's very important to understand the queen endgame of it as well, because if you make a queen, he makes a queen, then depending on how close the kings are and what is going on, might not be the best choice. So if you see that, for example, this this doesn't work, this h5 doesn't work, you might want to do something else. But the problem is, in this position you can't really do anything else. Your king is way too far ahead, and if you do something like king g3, your king is not going to be in the square, right? So we can't really do anything else except for h5. So h5, let's push, 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 check. Now, is this winning for white, or can black save this? I agree. If the queens are traded, then everything is just easy peasy draw. But what about the queens are not traded? What if white gives check, for example? So, do we agree that right now it's up to white to want to win or to agree to a draw? It is winning, right? Exactly. Queen g7. You're going to get your queen as close as possible, and then king f2. All right, great. Yeah. White should not take the draw, no. And that is why I showed this position, to show you that even when with like the queen endgames, it really matters pieces activity. Kings, how close the kings are. Okay. We don't really need to check the billion times, but as white's gonna win this, so careful. h5 is actually h5 is the only move. You don't really have anything else, but we can't necessarily if we don't do h5, we're gonna lose anyway, so we might as well try our best. That's the mentality. And the idea is that activity that you shouldn't, that's like if you had the chance to play like king g2, you shouldn't have played this king g2. All right, I'm not gonna save this. All right, so now this is a long, long, long love story between the knight and the rook. So how are we going to win this for white? In the game, black played knight a5. So, white to move, how to win. This is going to be a long and painful one, so I would advise you to embrace it. Get coffee, popcorn, whatever works for you. Rook h7 right now is not the move to be played because you don't want to drop your king. So you got to do something with your king. You got king b5 or king c7. Actually, king b5 is the best one. If knight goes to b3, what do you think we should do? Knight b3 is not the most accurate move. Exactly, rook d8, awesome. We gotta cut. We gotta cut the king, cut the knights. We're gonna cut everything in endgames. So king b5, knight b7, only move. Now, how can we continue to cut? Careful, rook h7 is not a good move. King goes to b8, knight d8. Now that is a draw. So rook h8, rook h7 is not the best move. I can understand rook h6, but see, we want to keep the rook here. So we want to keep the rook in this rank, so the king is cut, right? And we want to keep the rook in this rank, so the knight is cut. So so whatever move we want to do now, we want to force black to do knight d6 the next move. So, that being said, you shouldn't touch the rook from 8th rank. So you gotta do something in the 8th. Rook c8, knight d6. That's gonna be a fun draw. So rook c8 and rook e8 are out. So you basically have two moves, rook f8 and rook g8. Does it matter which one do you do? Keep in mind, we want to cut the knight. Sure, let me call him up and be like, hey Magnus, do you know how to win this? Why not? I'll keep you guys on the line. Rook f8 is actually the best one, because after check, and now I'm still pressuring your knight, and you see the knight is cut. Can't go to f7, can't go to the f5, can't go to e8. You can go to e4, you can go to c4, and you can go to b7. If it goes to b7, we go to f7, and this is winning, right? Careful not to take this, because we don't want to do a stalemate. King b6 is winning, because next move we're going to have checkmate. So, what about knight e4? How are we going to do with that knight e4? I told you guys, I gave you the heads up to get your popcorns and coffee or whatever else you're gonna need for this one. This is rough. Yes, to rook f7. If the king goes to a8, king b6, and next move, mutt. If king goes to a6, can somebody tell me how do we win this? Exactly, rook f4. Thank you, Aryan. Then rook c4. What if king goes to b8? What? Popcorns are not good for your health? There goes another thing that I like to eat. Popcorns are basically a food group for me. So right now king b6 doesn't really work because the king can just run. So exactly, Matthew, we actually have to do this rook b7. If king c8, now rook e7, we're gonna eat your knight or give you checkmate, right? Knight f6, rook e6. King a8, rook b4. Move the knight. If you go like knight g5, I'll just keep chasing that, and then I'll just have that king b6. So the whole idea is something like, I'm gonna use the fact that your knight is defenseless to have your king in the corner to give you checkmate. I guess that's the summary of this position. But it's not that easy, like knight c3, then something like rook c4, and you really have to try and try, but that's the thing, you're eventually gonna get it. So yeah. Alright, so let's go back to knight c4. So if you're playing this as black, you should already be thinking about, okay, so that shows me I should not really fly so far away with my knight. And I should keep my knight close to my king, right? So that's what the black is trying to do right now. Knight c4. Now, white to move. What do you think is the best move for white? Exactly, we don't want a wild horse. I get why you want to do rook f5, but sorry, man. Okay, I guess this move might be too hard for you guys. I'll give it another few seconds. Nope, I still don't see the right move in the chat. This is a move that if I didn't know beforehand, I probably wouldn't find either. So, it's actually rook d8. What? Right? Rook d8, Now let's start from the bad moves. What if knight goes to e3? So you see, again, you want to keep your rook on the 8th rank so the king can't do anything. So you're forcing him to keep moving the knight into worse and worse and worse positions. So between the 8th rank, let's see why rook d8 is the best one. If he makes a mistake and goes knight e3, you're just going to give check. And depending, we just saw what happens in the previous position. If you play like king a8, I have king b6. If you play king b8, I have like rook e7. And still that's going to be quite painful. Wait. Yeah. If you played something like so sorry, my bad. If you played king b8, first rook b7, if king there, rook e7, and if after check you went king a8, then I would still have rook e7, you move the knight, and I have king b6. Okay, sorry. That was something I had to clarify. If you go like check, king b5, and if you go knight b7, now we are back in that position, and your knight is actually about to fall pretty soon. So remember the first position? First position was this, right? We played king b5 and knight b7, and we played rook f8. And your knight went to d6, and your knight started to jump. And now we're talking about knight a5, knight b7. So what do you think is wrong with this? Huh, yeah. Rook d7, I believe, because then you're attacking the knight and you want to give checkmate. So he can't really stop it both. All right. So we looked at knight a5. What about knight b2? We saw something like knight b2 in the previous position too. So what do you want to do after knight b2? Pin city, ha. You want to trap the knight? Yeah, rook d4. Awesome. Thank you, Stefan. King a8, king b6, and you're going to be checkmated pretty soon. And you see the beauty of it is that this knight cannot go anywhere, right? Awesome. Well, I mean, I'll eat that. What about knight a3? What do you think about knight a3? King c5? No, I don't want king c5. I want to continuously have threats for your knight. King c5 doesn't have a threat for the knight. Rook d4 does. I want to do rook a4, and I want to ask for your knight's hand. Knight c2, rook e4, and finally this king b6. And see, because the knight is on c2, I'm going to give you cool checkmate. Exactly, BZ. I think that is one way to think about it, yeah. So knight a3 doesn't work. What about knight b6? Going back to basics. What do you think white can do after knight b6? All right, I see some interesting ideas. Knight a3 was confusing. Yeah, see, all of these lines are confusing, so draw the game and sleep, honestly, at this point. I got homework to do. But rook d4 is actually, exactly, thank you, Mohammed. Rook d4 is the best one. Because after, rook d4, well, you kind of cut the knight, right? You also, king can't go anywhere too. So now black can only pretty much do knight c8. Now king c7, threatening mate, threatening your knight. I'm just going to chill with that knight. And now this is winning, right? Zugzwang. However, keep in mind that so far the only absolute draw position that we saw was this, rook h7, king d8. So this is what we don't want. We don't want the king to get to the 8th rank. We don't want the knight to be on d8. We do not want this. So anything else, we're kind of doing fine. So we did this rook f8, rook d8, and knight e5 check. Now, where do you want to put your king? You can go c7, you can go b5, you can go c5. You can't go d6. So I see a lot of b5s, but what about c5? What's wrong with c5? Why don't you guys like the c5? Well, everybody's saying b5. Whoa. Actually, king c5 is the best one. Sorry for misleading you. So for king c5, king b7 is like the most feisty one for black, which we will do rook d5. But let's take a quick pause and look at what if anything else besides king b7. So what if knight goes to g6? Then what? Knight is far, far ahead. That's a one wild horse. How are we going to win this? Yep. We don't want to draw after 15 moves. But yeah, ideally we want to like separate the king and the knight as much as possible and use the fact that the knight is lonely to attack it and give the king checkmate. Or just check and pick up the knight. So rook d4 is actually the best one. We saw a lot of this idea with rook d4 so far in this puzzle, right? And the thing is, after rook d2, after rook d4, you're taking away so many squares from black's knight. King b7, king d6, and actually in this position, I doubt you guys have a hard time winning this because you're just gonna go after the knight basically, and you will eat the knight. So what if he goes knight g4? Any suggestions? King d4. King d4 is easier. You're gonna go hunt that knight with your king. And after king d4, if knight f6, rook f8, and that knight is already meeting his creator, because if knight d7 or knight h7, rook f7, if knight goes to h5, that's also super duper corner. I'll give it maybe 3 more moves before it goes into my belly. So king b7. What about king b7? Yeah, knight kind of does like squares. You're correct. So right now the knight can't come to the e file. So we gotta play rook f8 to take away the f file as well, right? Logical. And then you're just gonna attack this guy. You're gonna go after it, and you are going to eat it very deliciously. All right, so one more line to look at, knight f3 instead of king b7. So what about knight f3? Ha! Yes, that is just hard to find move that doesn't win, but it's also hard to find the move that does win. So You gotta do it accurate. Rook d5. Oh, exactly. Good one, Shahzeb. Rook d5. You're gonna cut that knight on the 5th rank. Now, if something like, let's take a look at, for example, knight h4. Now we do rook g5. Keep cutting that knight. Keep that knight cut. And you're just gonna come eat it with your king and with the help of your rook. Eventually that knight will go bye-bye. No, the bishop is different. We'll take a look at bishop as well, hopefully tonight. But even if something like knight d2 instead of going on h4, we're still gonna do the same things. Take the square away from the knight, bring up your king to put it in the corner, and eat the knight. I wanted to show you this knight h2 as well. If knight h2, still rook f5. You cut the knight. Same ideas. If knight goes to h6, still rook f6, and we are gonna simply bring the knight closer to a corner. No, these moves are not the only winning moves, but these are the most accurate ones, because the plan is that you're gonna separate the knight from the king, put it in a corner, eat it, right? So these are like the best ways to do it, but these are not the only ways. And we mentioned this as well. So I'm just basically right now showing you different ways of trapping and eating the knight. So I feel like you guys have understood the idea, so I'm gonna move on with, wait, actually, did I show you knight e1? So many lines. Yeah, I didn't show you knight e1. But this is also the same idea. You give me check, I'm gonna come after your knight. You don't give me check, you go to c2. I'll again put that rook on g3, like right above it, diagonally, and I'll peacefully bring my king to eat it. Alright, so you guys seen a lot of this idea. I'm a little tired of this idea. I feel like I'm gonna have a dream about this idea tonight, or rather a nightmare. So what about king b7? Anybody has a move for me? We're almost done with it. Just a few more different lines to look at, different ways to eat the knight. I feel like there should be a song about this. Have I ever had an endgame like this? No, I had endgames that pawns were involved. It is a nightmare, exactly, with a K, huh? Yeah, rook d5 again, that's the best way to go. You're gonna keep pushing the knight. So knight only can go to, g6 and g4. So if knight goes to g6, we're just gonna bring in the king. The knight is already getting close to the corner, and we've seen something similarly like this. We're just continuously gonna go put that baby in a corner and eat it soon. Right? Okay, so what about knight g4? Can we still apply the same logic of eating the knight? I showed you what would we do with knight g6, so I'm hoping you guys will tell me what to do with knight g4. It is really hard to calculate in the real game. I remember when I was actually sitting behind the chessboard and trying to answer these. This took forever, and I was just like, okay, that's my puzzle of the day. I'm not looking at anything else. So actually, you have to realize the king kind of broke free a little bit, and the knight is super far away. So you gotta still try to have somewhat of a cut for the king. So king d6 actually is the best one. And king d6, if something like a knight f2, well, actually, if something like knight f6, we just have rook e5, and the knight is still pretty cut. Something like knight f2, we still do rook d4, cutting the knight. And finally, bringing our king. When is my finally eating this knight? Finally. Alright, it's a lot of knight eating, honestly. If something like knight e3, we can also continue with rook b5, get the king in, bring in the rook, and finally this. And you see, when the king is in the corner, we could actually focus on mating the king, but when the king starts to get a little bit closer from the corner, then we could actually go for the knight. So I think that's one way to look at it. So king b6 seems to be the longest try. Rook d2. Rook d2, I'm not letting you run away. I'm still keeping this knight minimized. I have had lunch, I think, yes. Okay, so after rook d2, if knight f6, oh, this is actually nice. This is kind of clear. Check, keep the knight cut, go after the knight, slowly keep the king cut, bring in the king, keep the king cut, keep the knight cut. You see how beautiful it's being done? You cut the king, then you cut the knight. Seems like kind of like almost simultaneously. Exactly. Then you go after that cute little knight, and you finally eat it. Oh. Alright, so this was a very long line. Let's go back. What if knight e3? I'm not gonna eat a horse. Poor horse. The only horse I'll eat is this one. Ha, be easy. I guess you've been watching me for a while. Kind of probably true. Ha, 2-day homework. Yep. Alright, I think we're almost done with this. We're just gonna eat the knight or give checkmate. I'm fine with either. So now, if knight goes to e3, we have rook b2. Kick the king away, keep the king cut, and you know, if he lets us, we're gonna do a checkmate. And then come back, kick the knight. Something like knight f5, rook d3. See, you can't move with your king, you gotta move your knight. You gotta take that f5 square away from your knight. If something like knight c8, rook f7, and that knight is already going in my belly. If you went knight g8, still king d6, and I got your knight in the corner. I feel like I need to sing a song about knights in the corner. Also kind of sounds shady, but alright. So knight g6, let's bring the king. Let's bring more pieces. I really gotta eat that knight soon. There we go, finally. Next move, rook h6, and then rook h2, and then knight goes to e1, and then the rook is on h2, so your knight can't go anywhere. Then king e3, rook e2, bye-bye knight. Alright, I think this was the longest puzzle of my life. Let's move on. I need a break from the knights. Oh no, why am I saving this? Okay. Alright, so this is a smaller one. This is a smaller version. So I'm going to leave this up to you guys. Tell me, what do you want to do? We just did a super gigantic way of eating knights. So I expect you guys to be able to give me some idea. think we just spent like half an hour on that love story between the rook and the knight. Oof. The way that rook was chasing that knight, that's the way I want to be chased by my MCAT books. I also am not the biggest fan of endgames. Myself, I prefer to mate game. Like, I play a 15-minute game, I'll mate you in 5 moves, voila. Yeah. Oh, queen endgames are a whole other headache. That's also another thing that I plan to do. Not tonight though. Tonight we are focusing on the horsies. Yeah, so does anybody have a move for me? I see some rook d7s. I see some rook f5s. Yeah, exactly. Rook f5 is the best one. You gotta keep that. You gotta kick that knight. Remember? Knight d2. Now the knight might want to go to e4. So rook f4. I'm taking 3 of your vital squares, 4 of your vital squares away. So you have knight b3 or knight b1. Knight b1. Oh, that's gonna be the best day of my life. Just king b4, and it's almost done. Actually, rook b4. No, rook b4. Why did I do king b4? Same thing with if knight b3 check. Now we do king b4. Sorry, my bad. Knight c1. Now, again, remember kings love to take away squares from the knights, right? And finally, we eat that knight. That stubborn knight. Alright, so what if king a6? Anybody want to tell me how to eat this knight now? Yeah, I need a break from knights, honestly, after this tonight's class. Exactly, starter course. Obviously, this is a beginner class, right? Exactly, king b4, king c3, king b2, king c2. Finally. All right. No more knight, no more knight. Okay, I can deal with this knight. So, what do we want to do in this one? This is a good kind of having a knight. Ah, this is so much fun. So, white to move. What are we gonna do to black? Yep, exactly. Ah, my headache is gone. Knight f6 is so pretty. Yep. I mean, he tries like rook a7. I'm just gonna, can I just actually eat here for the fun of it? But no, I'm just gonna eat over there, and this is gonna be way too much fun. Alright, so now this position, white to move. What to do? Exactly, if you're always looking at hard stuff, your brain is gonna just melt down. So it's good to have a little baby breaks. So white to move, how are we gonna survive this? Because he's attacking our rook and he wants to give us checkmate, so whew. Connect rooks. So those of you who are saying rook h5, what if king takes f4? Sorry, I thought you were saying rook. One second. This position is viewing it from white. That is my bad. I don't know why I flipped the position from the beginning. In this position, here being h1, not a8, as I mistakenly assumed. Oof, even those knights are still jumping in my head. So now, yes, rook h5, exactly. After rook h5, if you take, now rook a6, I'll pick this guy up, right? I think this was very beautiful. Yeah. All right. Awesome. What about this one? I mean, this one is the same idea too, so I'm not gonna even bother asking you. Ooh, what about this one? Ah, this is nice. I want to be doing 26,000 puzzles of these. Yep. Alright, you guys got this. This is nice. Oh, not this. Alright, so whites to move, how do we win? We gotta do this rook e1. I think rook f4 and rook f7 also work. So if you were to play like rook f4 and just rook h4, this is like an easy version to win. But obviously rook f4, he wouldn't necessarily move his rook, like he would just keep the rook here, so keep in mind. Same with rook f7, king e8, then rook f4, then rook e4, then king f7, and then this is another way of trying to win it, like same bridge type of deal. Well, not everything wins, but yeah, you're correct. A lot of different ways to win. So, rook e1. Also, if I'm not mistaken, this position was first published in 1497. So it's like, I'm not even gonna do the math, just like so many years ago. 1497. Holy guacamole. Exactly. Lucena. Yep, I have trouble pronouncing it, but yes. Alright, so what about, exactly, thank you, 523 years ago. So what about rook e1? What are we going to do after that? Probably king, if king f6, well, that's already a wrap, right? What about king d6? Now king d6, what do you think white's gonna do? We could do rook e4. I think king f8 is also just gonna work like a charm, right? This is easy peasy win. What about king d7? If you do king f7, check, 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 bunch of checks. So you gotta do rook e4, exactly. Rook h1, king up, and you're gonna bridge it up. Alright, good. Takes forever to do that. So now, what about this position? Are we still gonna win this as well? White to move? Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for staying around. Rook d4 is actually the best, not rook d5, but yes. If you do king e6, I'm just going to get my king out. I'm just going to do this. Lovely. If you play something like rook a2, now I can do the king c7, bridge. I'm going to bridge, I'm going to bridge, and bridge. Alright, great. This is a little bit longer, but nothing we can't get through. What about this position? Whites to move. Yeah, we're just trying to like place the pawn in different spots and see how it goes, basically. I think rook f4 does work. Yeah, I think this is one of the easiest way to go about it. However, rook a1 is something that they tried, and like rook a1, the problem is that like if you try to go that way, it just makes it even a little bit complicated. But because we have this possibility of like just running away, because then if the rook is protecting the 8th rank, we're going to do that. The only thing that I guess doesn't win is the early king e7, just because then your king is way too far ahead from your pawn, far away from your pawn. So what about this one? White to move. This pawn is about to queen. What can we do as white? King f4, push. Now what? Is this gonna be a win, draw? What are you fighting for? Yep, king c7. Should we play b7 or king b8? I think b7 is the easiest way to get the draw. And do we know how to draw this? I think we all do, right? Just put your king on c8. Best not to do the king a8, because then you give your opponent the chance to bring king b3, right? We don't really want to do that. You know, we don't want to self-mate. So just be careful not to do that. Just king c8. You're forcing, do you want to do check queen? So you're forcing some sort of check or some sort of stopping the queen. And you all know how to draw this, right? Just don't play king a8. Okay, so that is kind of all the time I have for today. I'm not going to say that's all the material I have for today, because I told you I got 26,000 puzzles just like this. Alright, so thank you guys for staying around with me, and make sure to tune in for our other content for YouTube and Twitch. And I will be on Twitch teaching lessons from 5 to 7 St. Louis time on Friday. Alright, have a great rest of your week.